The benefits of chewing for jaw and teeth health. This is something that I wanted to go into. This is going to be useful information if you're younger and you're having issues with overcrowding in your mouth, and if you are someone who has kids and you want to raise them the right way and you want them to develop better. Also, I legitimately believe that this will save you from thousands of dollars in dental expenses that could be braces in the future. And I have scientific evidence to back it up. To start, when you look at early humans, you see very good teeth. You don't see dental overcrowding. They have enough space for every tooth in their mouth. And from almost every skull I can find, I see this with all individuals pre-World War II. And so the World War II timeframe matters because that is when we started making much more processed foods, and that's when we started eating much more processed foods, and that is what is causing this issue of teeth overcrowding is individuals and the amount of processed foods that they're eating. But I'm going to go into everything behind it and why I believe it's true. Okay, this is just a start. This is the first thing I saw. This is from the Smithsonian, and it's called Written in Bone, Reading the Remains of the 17th Century. So this is bones from the 17th century. And here is, you see this skull. And one thing I want people to notice is look how straight the teeth are, and look how they each have enough space for themselves. Here, I'm gonna post this up as well. Look at this image. If you don't like mouths, this might be a little bit hard to see, so you can skip ahead. But so the top one is individuals with dental overcrowding, and the bottom one is the same mouth, which is corrected with braces. But you see, one thing you notice is the canines are pushed up, and basically what is happening here, what the issue is the mandible, which is your jaw, is less long and narrow and more wide and short, and so the teeth do not have enough space for themselves, so they're pushed up and they're pushed in different directions. But when you look here at this jaw from the 17th century, you see enough space for the teeth, and you see they're all pretty aligned. And one thing you see too is you'll usually see a slight overbite or a slight underbite. Now, from personal experience, when I got braces, they wanted me to have a slight overbite. And the reasons they mentioned for that was, one, for aesthetics, and number two, so your teeth are not resting on top of each other and they're not grinding against each other, so they kind of have a place to sit if you have a slight overbite. Also, something which I think is important to mention here too, you'll see in the skull, the lower part of the jaw is missing, and they state in the caption below that this is because of a bacterial infection from the teeth, and so it spread to the jaw. And so I think this is important to mention, because this is something that in a first world country wouldn't happen today. This is something that is very easily corrected. And so I'm not hating on dentists, and I'm not hating on the health industry, because I think they do a lot of great things, and this is an example of that. But I think we do a lot of things wrong as well, and I think there's things that you can correct, and I think that mouth overcrowding is something that we can correct for free that doesn't require going to the orthodontist. So I want to skip to, and I want to mention that as well. So this is what I looked up. This is the Gemini AI answer from looking up when were processed foods readily available, and it says late 18th and 19th century, and then in the last sentence particularly after World War II, saw a significant rise in consumption of processed foods due to convenience and new technologies developed for military use. So that was my point from before. And then here, when you Google how to solve teeth overcrowding from a young age, I want to express the idea too that these solutions are kind of more nuanced, but I'll give you, and it seems intimidating, but I'll give you the key to understand it in the end. Because when you Google something like this, everything you see, look at the links on the right, look at the treatment, it's orthodontist, it's go to the orthodontist, and you look down below at the actual links. National Institute of Health, can be prevented or corrected using braces, orthodontist. I think this is something where if you handle it at a young age, you don't need to go to the orthodontist, and you don't need to get braces, which, by the way, braces are not permanent. If you fix this issue at a young age, it is permanent. So I think we can do a lot better in this situation, and I think this is one thing that we have it wrong. And yeah, so let's go into the articles I found. So the first one, we have this image. So look at this image as well. This is a medieval skull from Norway. And this individual has very good teeth. Look at their teeth. Look how they each have enough space, no overcrowding. The jaw, I mean, the way they're formed and the way they're aligned is, you don't have to be a scientist to see this, and I'll show this later as well. You can see the canines aren't pushed up. Everything is just sitting nicely. And you see this everywhere with old skulls. You see old skulls and they have teeth developed properly. So in this article, it's titled, this is from the American Journal of Orthopedics and Dentofacial, or Orthodontics and Dentofacial Orthopedics, titled Malocclusions More Prevalent and Severe Now, a Comparative Study of Medieval Skulls from Norway. Now, I'm going to go over what I highlighted. This one was behind a paywall, I believe, so I did not have access to the whole article, but I have much better articles later in this video. But we don't need the entire article, and I'm going to go over the most important parts. So, to start, prevalence and severity of malocclusions. Malocclusions, dental overcrowding is included in that, but it relates to other things as well. They say having an excessive overbite or underbite is technically a malocclusion as well. So just know it includes other things. In the articles that I found later, they specify actual dental overcrowding, so you'll see that as well. But anyways, in a sample of medieval Norwegians, to evaluate the need for treatment by using Norwegian need for orthodontic treatment index, and to compare these findings with modern sample already analyzed with the same index. So basically, they're using the same index to analyze medieval Norwegians against modern Norwegians for severity of malocclusions. Here, the next highlighted section. Only 36% of the medieval group showed objective assessed needs for orthodontic treatment, compared with 65% of the present day sample. That is something I find very interesting. So only 36% of the medieval group showing need for orthodontic treatment, whereas 65% of the modern group showed need for orthodontic treatment, which is kind of insane when you think about it. The medieval sample, arranged according to severity, was great need 7%, obvious need 29%, and little to no need 64%. That was just something I found interesting, was a majority of the issues they had were little to no need as well. So they weren't, a majority of these people were not having severe tooth issues. Conclusions. This study indicates significant increase in both prevalence and severity of malocclusions during the last 400 to 700 years in Oslo, Norway. Basically, their conclusion is that significance and prevalence of and severity of malocclusions has increased in modern times. So the next article that I want to go to is from the National Library of Medicine, National Center for Biotechnology Information. This is titled Asynchronous Dentofacial Development and Dental Crowding, a cross-sectional study in contemporary sample of children in France. Again, I'm just going to go over the highlighted parts, the most important and relevant information for this video. And then I'm also going to link all of these sources down below, so you can go read these articles and check them out for yourself as well. A condition, so defining a condition related to both facial development and dental maturation is dental crowding. I thought that's important. They define dental crowding. So it's how your face is being developed and the mature maturation. So how your dental, I don't know a good word for this, but how that area is being developed as well. On to the next one. Dental crowding can be defined as a discrepancy between both tooth and jaw sizes that result in a malposition and or rotation of teeth. Dental crowding is not a disease itself, but can be considered a condition that can lead to or promote diseases. This is important as well. So the discrepancy between tooth and jaw sizes, that is the scientific term that they're using in this article, and I have a better one later. They are analyzing that jaw sizes are changing, but teeth sizes aren't, and so that is what is causing malocclusions and dental overcrowding. And then also, it's not a disease. So this is not something that you are inheriting, and this is not something that you can get, but it's something that is coming from your development. So I think that's something important to know as well, because it's something that you can fix, which is nice, which is excellent. Nowadays, on to the next one. Nowadays, the prevalence of dental crowding is estimated to range between 30 and 60%. It is one of the most frequent reasons why people consult an orthodontist, especially given the high aesthetic demand expressed by patients. So that is an insane number, but it's not surprising to me. We'll see later that this dental overcrowding is caused by eating processed foods and not chewing enough. And so 30 and 60% does not really surprise me, but it's an insane number. But it's also insane that 90% of the world eats processed foods. I don't know if that's an actual statistic, but that's just what it seems like. The causes of dental crowding are still not fully understood, but they may be rooted in an evolutionary trend towards reduced facial volume without a proportional reduction in tooth size. That scientific definition I mentioned before that they're using. Most previous studies conducted among primates have revealed a very low or non-existent correlation between tooth size and jaw size. It has been shown that as human populations transitioned from a hunter-gatherer lifestyle to an agricultural one, this was a consistent shift toward a shorter, broader mandible, thus dental crowding could occur as a result of the increased processing of modern foods, and thus a reduced need for powerful masticatory action. Very important, we're not chewing, so our mandible is not being developed in the correct way. It's rooted from agricultural lifestyle, but in reality, that's just processed foods. And we'll go into that deep as well, but let's just keep going. So here, figure 1 and figure 2. Figure 1, girl is 13 years of age with synchronous dentofacial development without dental crowding. Figure 2 is 13.5 years of age, girl with dental crowding. And so I think it can be a little bit more nuanced and a little bit more difficult to see. But I want you to pay attention to what you see here. And the best place to look is the C, D, and E graphs on the right side here. And you'll see with the girl without dental crowding, there's enough space for each tooth. And you'll see on the girl with, you'll see the teeth crowded together and they're shifted, they're not aligned. And that's something important to see because that's how you relate it to the old skulls and how you can tell for yourself. Because you don't need to be a scientist to tell this information. When you look at old skulls and you can tell that they have straight teeth and 60% of our population doesn't have straight teeth. Why is this? Like, why does this happen? So yeah, look for that. That's how you tell. Next, so in this article, they link to their sources. And here before, where I had already read, where it says, right here, where it says number 17, it has been shown that human populations transitioned from a hunter-gatherer lifestyle to an agricultural one. There was a consistent shift towards a shorter and broader mandible, number 17. So that links to this article. And this is the most important article of all of them. And this one has so much good information. Please go read it if you're interested, because it just shows so much. But this one is called Global Human Mandibular Variation Reflects Differences in Agricultural and Hunter-Gatherer Lifestyles. So I'm gonna go through this one, and this one has a wealth of information. So into this article, again, I'm going to be going through the highlighted parts, the information that I found the most useful. Variation in the masticatory behavior of hunter-gatherer and agricultural populations is hypothesized to be one of the major forces affecting the form of the human mandible. However, this has yet to be analyzed at a global level. Here, the relationship between global mandibular shape variation and subsistence economy is tested, while controlling for the potential confounding effects of shared population history, geography, and climate. The results demonstrate that the mandible, in contrast to the cranium, significantly reflects subsistence strategy rather than neutral genetic patterns. This is important that this article is analyzing it at a global level, and also the mandible, in contrast to the cranium, significantly reflects subsistence strategy rather than neutral genetic. So the mandible is not as much genetic, and it's more of your lifestyle. That's what that means. With hunter-gatherers having consistently longer and narrower mandibles than agriculturalists, these results support notions that decrease in masticatory stress among agriculturalists causes the mandible to grow and develop differently. This developmental argument also explains why there is often a mismatch between the size of the lower face and the dentition, which in turn leads to increased prevalence of dental crowding and malocclusions in modern post-industrial populations. Therefore, these results have important implications for our understanding of human masticatory adaptation. On to the next highlighted. Only mandible and palatomaxilla were significantly correlated with genetic patterns supporting notion that the mandible does not reflect neutral population history, given that the palato-maxilla is morphographically integrated with the mandible via dental occlusion. It is not unexpected that it follows a similar non-neutral pattern. What this basically means is that in the study, we found that the mandible and the palato-maxilla were not correlated with genetics. So it wasn't a genetic thing, it was a lifestyle thing. Also, the mandible is connected. I believe the palato-maxilla is the back of the roof of the mouth. I could be incorrect on that, but I believe that's the case. And they connect in a way where if your mandible changes, that bone in your mouth will change as well. So that's what they mean there. This supports previous studies suggesting that climatically driven diversifying selection has played a relatively minor role in generating global patterns of cranial variation. However, aspects of facial variation associated with thermal regulation were deliberately not tested here. What that basically means is that people develop facial features from climates, and they didn't test that here. But we'll also see that they found it to be the case where your habits are affecting how your mandible is being developed. So we know this is not a variable we really need to consider. I think they overdo it in science, and they lose reality where they can't make a point because they can't have any variables that conflict with the study. Basically, what this is saying is that they didn't consider climate. So for example, individuals who have ancestry from very cold climates, they develop certain traits. So you'll see high cheekbones. You see that among Scandinavians, monolith Asians. They'll have extremely high cheekbones. Part of that is thermal regulation. Part of that is shielding your eyes from the cold as well. Just things like that. Different facial features that occur because of your genetic history. And environmental factors as well. The next one, but an experiment comparing hyraxes found that those raised on softer, more processed food items experienced approximately 10% less growth in the mandible, lower face, and zygomatic region than the group raised on fresh, unprocessed foods. This supports the idea that the biomechanical properties of mastication, with hunter-gatherers presumably experiencing longer and more intensive bouts of chewing than agriculturalists, that is the selective force. Previous localized comparisons of hunter-gatherer and farming populations found significant changes in the masticatory apparatus occurring with relatively short time periods, suggesting developmental plasticity or rapid selection. So this is very important. What that means, they found that what you're eating and how you're chewing is affecting how your mandible is being formed. And then also they have a scientific tidbit at the end where they say, suggesting developmental plasticity or rapid selection, basically saying this suggests that it is something that you're developing from your lifestyle changes, or it's rapid selection, which is kind of like rapid evolution. But we can see, because it is happening because of what you eat and how you're chewing, this is a lifestyle choice. This is not a rapid evolutionary trait. Going on to the next one. Reduced duration and intensity of mastication are also thought to be linked to the higher prevalence of dental crowding and malocclusions in the post-industrial urban populations, whereby inadequate chewing stress generate insufficient strain for mandibular and maxillary growth in relation to overall tooth size. This is what we're looking for. Your jaw isn't being developed because you're not chewing enough. You don't have enough chewing stress on your jaw. specifically when you're developing, because when you get to a certain age, your jaw is no longer developing. This is also supported by studies of malocclusions identified in non-human primates raised on soft diets. The results obtained here are also congruent with this idea, whereby one of the major shape differences was found that agriculturalists had shorter mandibles overall. Same point again, tested with non-human primates. Additionally, study into the incidence of dental crowding and malocclusions in the modern hunter-gatherer populations is required to further our understanding of the interplay between masticatory stress, mandibular form, and dental eruption patterns. Don't know why I highlighted this. Basically just saying it's important. This is an important issue, and it's something that they should study more. The next one. Although much of the existing literature would predict that global patterns of mandibular variation reflect the intensity and duration of mastication, there are other potential explanations that should be considered. Given that modern humans all partake in substantial food processing and cooking, it is not entirely clear that all hunter-gatherer populations necessarily experience more intensive masticatory regimens than all agriculturalists. However, although appropriate, soft or liquid weaning foods are available cross-culturally. Hunter-gatherer populations consistently breastfeed for longer, thereby delaying the onset of full masticatory behavior in young children. Whether this may have a correlated effect on the ontogeny of mandibular growth in different subsistence groups also requires further investigation. So before, they're mentioning that there's other factors that they think could affect this as well, but we see also in their conclusion that what you're eating and how long you're chewing is affecting your mandible growth. So this is just kind of saying that the amount of time that you're weaning, they think could affect this as well. But this is kind of a non-point because I'm not going to go into it in this video, but there is data that weaning for longer creates a more developed mandible, and this is suggesting that could be a factor as well. But also, they already stated that chewing and what you're eating affects the mandible as well. So I think this is a not really a factor to consider. The last highlight: the consistency of the results obtained here, irrespective of how substance was quantified, attests to the strength of the conclusions that can be drawn from these data. The change from a hunter-gatherer economy-based animal and or plant domesticates had a dramatic effect on the shape of the human mandible, effectively erasing the signature of past population history, although it still remains to be proven conclusively whether the change is attributable to masticatory stress, weaning behavior, or other demographic factors. It appears to act in correlated fashion globally, causing a consistent shift towards shorter, broader mandible. Therefore, these results yield important insights into the evolution of human masticatory adaptation, as well as having implications for our understanding of modern clinical phenomena, such as the relatively high incidence of dental crowding and malocclusions in post-industrial populations. So, their conclusion is that they think it should be studied further, and they think they need more information. But it is true that malocclusions and dental crowding is something that has happened rapidly and is affecting a significantly high percentage of the population in modern times, and that there's correlation between a lifestyle, a hunter-gatherer lifestyle, where you see this less. And to boil it down to one point is, I think that if you're young, or if you're a parent who has kids and you want to, you could do it for any reason, but I think the most important is you want them to develop the right way. I think they need to chew more than the normal person is in modern times. And I'm not a doctor, so this isn't medical advice, but this is my advice as a person. And I think that you don't need to be crazy with it. And I don't think you need to eat steak for every single meal. And I don't think you need to chew gum for 8 hours a day. But if you're someone who's younger, or if you have someone who's younger, I would suggest, if they're eating solid foods, give them meat every once in a while. Have them chew. And if you like gum and you want to chew gum, I love chewing gum. But one thing I would say also is I would avoid most of the commercial gums, because I've also done a significant amount of research, which I can make a video on as well, on how bad artificial sweeteners are for your body, specifically your digestive system. So I would avoid commercial gums. I chew a gum made from resin, from tree resin, and I think this is the best option, the cleanest option, and I have never had any problems with it, and it honestly has helped me with a lot of things as well. But that's what I would take from this video, is chew more when you're younger, and you won't have overcrowded teeth when you grow up. When you think about it, most of the processed foods that we eat is mush. When you eat Cheerios, it's turning into mush in your mouth. When you eat goldfish, it's turning into mush. But if you eat solid foods, and this also spiderwebs, you'll notice this with a lot of health topics, is it spiderwebs into a lot of things. When you eat these mushy foods, they get in the grooves of your teeth more, so you will get worse cavities. You don't see as high cavities of people who eat whole foods. And so understand that it's helping you in more ways than you think as well. But that's what I would take from this video, is I would chew more, and you don't need to go crazy. And honestly, I think you just need to have meat every once in a while, or chew every once in a while, and your jaw will develop properly. But this is how you can solve those issues.